mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
And welcome to the radio show called Medvetna Val, in English Intentional Decisions, and the series called Best for the World. Today we're here with a lot of interesting guests, and together with me is Malin, one of our hosts here, radio hosts. Malin, so how do you feel today?
I'm a bit cold.
You're a bit cold, okay. So we had sun previous to this event. It actually came some rain here.
Yeah. But it's all good. We're here to have a very interesting conversation. So who cares about the weather? Huh?
No, that's right. We have interesting guests there. They're called the future navigators. That's something which I find very interesting, as you actually say something already in the word navigating. So welcome, very much welcome. We have with us first of all, just next to me, Mika Siljon. We actually met you last year in the radio show as you are here as Captain Future.
Yeah, I'm still Captain Future.
You're still Captain Future. So please, what is your relation to Almedalen?
This is the 7th year in a row I've been coming here to Almedalen, and I fell in love from the first time, 2013. It's just an amazing festival where you can meet people, and it's open, and it's about creating the future of society. And many here people are not really aware why they're here, but this is like the number one place in the world where you can connect to people and build social capital, and that is free and open. Like Bartola said, this is like Davos, but it's free and open for everyone.
Free and open, and you mentioned Bartola Bergstein. You're also most welcome. You're broadcasting yourself here. Yeah. Tell us what is happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect people, passion and purpose, and that's what we do. So a lot of people are following online, so I take this opportunity to do about amplifying of your perfect channel, and Rehan is helping me out right now here.
So Almedalen, for you have been here before. I've seen you in Almedalen, so what is the relation with Almedalen and all the rest of the world?
I think exactly like Michael said, it's a fantastic open place here. It's as Michael said, it's like World Economic Forum for Sweden, of course, primarily, but it's also very open and supportive. And in my view, Sweden opens up a little bit extra, so it's also some sort of culture shift when you come here. It's easier to speak with people than maybe in 2 months if you meet the same people. So it's something in the air as well, which I find very interesting.
And you actually connect the world right now, both with those iPhone cameras, but also with your guest. And when saying it's also our guest, so most welcome, Rehan. Rehan.com, Mr. Rehan.com. Please let us know, how come you are in Almedalen? You have to be close to the mic.
Well, thank you so much for introducing me to everyone here and your audience. I came because of the invitation of Bartola. We're Facebook friends for 7 years now, and this is the first time I came to see him in Östersund. And then he suggested that there is this amazing festival, so I wanted to make a documentary about this and see how we can have other countries in the world do similar things, so that their citizens and can feel connected to their politicians. I think it's an interesting experiment. I'm looking forward to learning more about it.
So right now, for you who are listening, it's quite an interesting setup here. We have the radio production, of course, but we also have, I don't know, 5 or 6 live streams going on. I really love that. And so we have plenty of people around this table right now, and we all gather here for some reason. I guess that you're here in some ideas on navigating the shift from best in the world to best for the world. Couldn't you please help us out? What is your thoughts about the shift?
I can go first. I've been talking to like a lot of people during the last 3 years about what's going on in society. We see all the symptoms of a society that is not capable of taking care of ourselves and the planet we live on. There are all kind of warning signs and dead canaries everywhere. And for a human society to continue for hundreds or thousands of years, you have to make a shift right now. And there's a lot of people talking about this shift. Most people really don't know what it is, because nobody does where we're going to transform our society till. But we know for certain that we can't continue doing the things we're doing now with the systems and mental models and the mindsets that has built this great world we live in now. There's no other way that this world had come to be, like built on entrepreneurship, big corporations, greed, globalization, colonization, science and the scientific revolution and everything. Everything happened for a reason, but now we have to, all human beings have to reevaluate what is it we want to do here on our planet, because it is our planet. And we need it. It doesn't need us.
It doesn't need us, but we need you. Michael, you're also known as Captain Future. How come that you have 2 names? One in an ordinary name, and one in a little more, I would say, passionate way. How come?
Yeah, I've been experimenting with identities, roles, and titles. Because many people say said to me, you shouldn't have a title, you're not your title. But I say the human brain actually works in putting everything into boxes. So instead of just having like one strict title like CEO or strategist or something like that, I said let's start experiment with silly titles instead. So the brain make playful connections to title instead of serious connections, and in that you become much more aware of titles and identities.
I wouldn't say silly. I would say, as I'm standing here in a capability cape. Okay, so you met Bertiola a couple of years ago. How was that, and why? How was it came to be?
Well, I think when you go around conferences and events like this, Almedalen is an example, you meet interesting people, and of course we didn't know each other, but I have been in this sort of new emerging economy for 13 years, and I saw this crazy guy jumping around in different places, and that made sense to me in like a very, not a rational Swedish person thinking first, but a person who like take a new step into the new emerging economy. So I found him very interesting to start to speak to, and then after time things evolve. So yeah, now we build things together. So yeah, so that's how it come. Step by step, going to different events, starting to build relations, and now we're starting the Future Navigators.
So what was your what was your idea on before you met Michael? How come that you're interested in this shift? What is it?
It's a long and short story, but basically I've been working with all these models of how we co-create together the future, but often we speak about models. I will not go into it here, but triple, quadruple helix models, the state, business, civil society, how we can work together. But one element is was clearly missing, and that's the digital space. And very few, even if you speak about digitalization, it's very often about the digital infrastructure or security, but not how we will use it, how we build relations and innovation in the space. So that is still a long way to go here in Sweden, even if I look, in my opinion, on the experts. So I think that's what we try to elaborate, these local spaces in between the digital spaces and the other stakeholder models. So that has been my testing and doing around the last 7-8 years. So connecting clusters of people, super connectors around the world. So since 2010-11, so we're around 1,000 hubs today globally. And they are sort of in another room, many of them, called the parallel society. So that's where we are. And Rehan is one typical or unique person in that of these super connectors.
All right. Rehan, what are your thoughts about this shift we're in from being best in the world to becoming best for the world?
I think only 1 billion of the 7.5 billion people of the world have actually seen the best of the world so far, and the rest of the 6.5 billion, because I come from a country, Pakistan, it's 220 million people who live on less than $100 a month. So they're still trying to take advantage of the best of the world, and my job is to help them achieve that through using technology. And I have been trying for the last 10 years to connect them to different clusters, like he's saying, like Bertola is saying, to allow them to see the world using their phone in a different way. So let me give you an example. In countries like Pakistan, you can buy a used phone for $20, a smartphone. You get a SIM card for free, you put it in your phone, and you have Facebook. And you don't have water to drink from the tap. You can't drink, you'll get sick. You don't have electricity, you don't have gas, you don't have a job maybe, and you have Facebook. So the whole everything starts to change if you can just give them the different information, which is not dictated by a government but is dictated by human beings around the globe. So what I do is I introduce them to people around the world and ask them to become their friends and co-create the world a better world, even without ever meeting them. So for example, I was friends with Bertola for almost 6-7 years now, and I only met him 3 years ago, and I have only met him for like 10 minutes before in my life, Michael. But we see each other a lot, and it doesn't feel that we don't know each other because we're constantly watching them. I have met people who have never met me for 10 years, and I show up and they say, have you really never met before? It feels like I see you every day. I feel like we're friends forever. So this is a new technology emerging, and most people are not really taking advantage of it, unfortunately. And we are still living in silos. We're living on a planet Earth, but we still think we live in Sweden or Norway or Finland or wherever. But we live on planet Earth, especially after the power of the internet, which costs nothing to call anywhere in the planet. It's the same, but the borders on the technology side have broken literally. But in our head, we're still in Sweden or Norway or Finland or the US or Pakistan or wherever. So that is what I am trying to break. I'm trying to use technology to disrupt borders on the digital platform in our heads, because that is where it has to break first before it breaks anywhere else. Unless we start seeing humans as humans rather than, oh, he's from this country, or he has this background, or he's a Syrian, or he's this or that, we can't co-create, because we're still they and us. We're not all us yet, or they, so that's the kind of stuff I do.
We have been talking about for a couple of years now something we call a new we, something that is not defining we as in opposition to them. It's more like not only open but also by intent. Is that something you have thought of?
I don't know much about this new we.
No, I don't know either. But I would say there are other names for it, oneness and stuff like that. I mean, you're actually connecting dots and seeing people as people, human as humans.
Right, we can call it, but the challenge is that we are still educating people around the flags or the borders or the nationalities or the language. I mean, I've been going around these events. There's all speaking in Swedish. They could all be speaking in English, but they don't have to. Of course, they're in Sweden. That's their first language. They should speak Swedish. But I was just wondering yesterday, why do we still need to teach our mother tongue? Why? I mean, why can't we just start teaching one language? Then we can start having less wars, less misunderstandings. We can't translate everything in another language. It's almost impossible to do that. And then a lot of it doesn't get translated. So why can't we use language as an art form rather than a tool? I mean, we have a lot of calligraphers in the world. Not everybody learns calligraphy in schools. Why can't we use language? Why can't we all finally have one common language where we don't have accents, we understand thoroughly each other? But we're still not doing it. We're still trying to teach on the 7th grade or the 9th grade, or like me, learning from CNN, we don't have a united planet yet in the world. I think we need to work a lot for it. And it starts, in my book, it starts from changing our Facebook friends.
Yeah, and that's one way of connecting. I would say, as you said, just meeting with people who are on your day-to-day life, but you haven't met them. That's interesting, yeah.
And I wanted to add, sorry to take advantage, I wanted to add that majority of these people, the 6 billion people of the world, cannot travel to the Western world, unfortunately, due to financial reason or visa reasons. So even if they wanted to travel and understand you guys or others, the other side, they cannot. So Facebook is one thing where you can actually meet people, or other platforms also, but Facebook is very intimate and sharing your food and everything, and actually knowing the person. So I think it's a beautiful tool which we can use to connect the world together and co-create the world together. I don't work for Facebook, by the way.
No. Good to know. You were about to say something, Malin.
No, I'm just curious about examples or stories of these clusters.
And I would say let's think about those for a while, and then go into the first song.
Right.
You brought some songs with you. I guess some of them with a purpose. And the first one is the UNV Nation. When is the future? I mean, this could also be something that we could think about. I mean, is the future something that is coming, or is it happening to us right now? So why did you choose this song?
It's an emotional song for me because I like the band and the music genre, but it also speaks a lot about the question: when is the future? When does the future we were promised coming? And the answer is, of course, it's not coming. We have to go and create it. But he doesn't answer that in the song, but he asks the question at least.
Nice.
Okay, so let's listen to this song, When is the Future Coming?
Welcome back to Radio Medvetna Val, Intentional Decisions. We're in Visby, Almedalen. It's beautiful, but it's cold. We're here, Malin Novén, Stellan, Mikael Siljan, Bertiola Bergstrand och Rehan.com. And right before the break, we were talking about sharing stories about these clusters that are surfacing and creating movements and building capacity around the world. Can you tell us more about it?
Can I share some stories?
Please.
So, not everybody can be on CNN, but we all have this phone in our pocket, which allows us to be, having our own TV channel every day. So we can speak for hours, or we can speak for at least 5 minutes a day about whatever our mission is in our life, whatever we want to achieve in our life. If we start speaking about it, the law of attraction kicks in, and we actually start getting it there, because people will start sharing, tagging people to whatever goal you have. And when you make a video or you meet someone, you build trust. When you trust someone, then you start taking actions for them. And you see a commitment. If you went ahead and did 5 minutes every single day about a particular topic, every single day, 5 minutes a day, after a month, people will start trusting that this woman actually knows something about this subject. So they will start sharing it more and more and more. So it doesn't happen overnight. So people come up and make one video and say, oh, this will change the world. It doesn't. It takes people like Greta to stand outside, for weeks and weeks and months before somebody takes a notice, for example. Or Malala to take 4 years before somebody noticed her blog. So I went ahead and started creating awareness about myself, and created 1 million people on Facebook as followers. And then I started finding people who have a purpose, and I started sharing my platform with them. So now I have a woman, her name is Carla, and she's retired, and she is teaching, she's taught over 1 million people English sitting in her bedroom over Facebook for the last year and a half. For example,
Wow.
that's one. Every single day
Wow.
at 9 p.m. Pakistan time, she shows up on my Facebook page and offers people to teach English for free for an hour every single day. Then there is a gentleman who had a liver transplant. He was connected to me. He had 80 people on his Facebook only a year ago. And he has now developed, I asked him to start interviewing people about their lives. And now he has a show called The Daydreamers Show, and he has 30,000 followers, and he has a target of helping 500,000 people learn programming in Pakistan. Now remember, 220 million people, you need to have larger goals. Not just like 10 people, but 1 million people. So I have another friend who introduced me to this guy who has 1 million freelancer target. Then another friend who wanted to teach 5,000 people programming, and now he has a goal of 1 million people to teach Python and artificial intelligence. And the president of Pakistan got involved, and now he is finally going to teach these people. So these are very small short stories. Then there's a guy I just interviewed, put it online. They're making a movie on his life. He was a trash collector, and he did not went to school, and he started he started picking up the newspapers and started to learn from that. And I met him in New York. He was on a fellowship, and he was self-educated. Then there was another guy who started making videos, watching my videos, saying this guy is making videos about entrepreneurship alone. I want to jump in, and he's now more popular than I have. And he's probably helped 10,000 entrepreneurs start their own business. He moved from the UK to Pakistan to do this. And another guy who copied him started copying me and him, and he has taught 5,000 people to start factories, small micro factories starting from $500 to $1,000. And you can YouTube any factory you want. Just go to YouTube, type his name is Shahid Joya, and type his name and a factory like cotton or garments or whatever, and you can see the entire tutorial of how to start a factory, from supply chain, everything, where to sell, how to sell. You don't need any school to go to learn how to start a factory if you just do this. So these people are changing the world using these technologies which we have. Majority of us are not. So my dream is that everybody actually finds their own goal and start, if it's your goal, start talking about it online so that people will come and help you. Because people do want to help, and 5 minutes a day, it's us we have to conquer. So if Greta can do it, anybody can do it, right? It's just that we have fear of speaking on camera or radio or being in front of other people. Oh, no, you do it. I will explain to you. You can go ahead and make a video. No, you have to. It's your story. You have to go out and say it. So it's phenomenal what it has done. I was one of the shyest people alive, and now I have 1 million people following me. I don't know why they follow me, but just saying it. So anybody can do it. I am a nobody, and if I can do it, anybody can do it.
You're telling stories, though. Those are powerful. Batula and Michael, what are your thoughts?
What are your thoughts? Yeah, I like Rian. I was also a very shy guy before I decided to become Captain Future. I started my journey 8 years ago, and I quit my job, and I said I want to build a better world, and I didn't know how to do it, so I started going around events both in Sweden and internationally to ask people how do I change the world. And eventually I came up with my own story, started my own podcast, and became Captain Future. And that's a call to everyone that Rian says, if we want to live on this planet, we can't be passengers. We have to be crew members that actively take part of the journey around the sun and are in our own life. And in all this process, I discovered like the process of going from being an ordinary working person to actually go on a journey, discovering yourself and discovering the world at the same time. That's what me and Bartola call journification. That's the core part of how we want to teach other people. How do you go on your inner journey, and how do you go on an outer journey to understand the world? So like it's what Rian does as well. So, and this has to happen in parallel. You have to both get to know yourself and you have to get to know the world at the same time.
Is that one of those aspects or perspectives that has connected the three of you?
For sure.
Or
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I think in this one word that summarizes a little bit is the new economy and sharing economy, collaborative economy, maker movement. There are so many concepts around this shift that we are in, and people are interested in different things. Some people are in mindfulness, or like Cillian very much maybe the inner journey, how you develop yourself, and I came much from building relations between organizations and people. So, like I said, the state, the region, the business, the academy. So there are different competences there that you need to bridge and find your role in building the future. So I think, but all of us have some kind of shared passion for. We can do something together, we see something, we want to go there, and then you try to pool the resources, and 1 + 1 is bigger than 2. That's the idea with social capital. The sum is greater than the parts. So we have our individual competences, but together we can create something amazing that couldn't be done otherwise. And there's a lot of knowledge around this. Psychologists, sociologists, have developed the models and tested this for years, network theories, and so I suggest that people also learn to see the invisible structures like houses and traditional infrastructure we can see, but this is very much unseen resources, so it takes frameworks and methodologies to work with the unseen resources also.
And what does, if we become aware of those invisible structures, what does that make possible?
Well, some people say we are on the knowledge information age, knowledge age. Rian said we have passed that. So most businesses today, without going too deep into, is like we transform our knowledge and relation into some kind of structural capital, apps, methodologies, and like that. So in order to be able to do that, you need to understand the underlying structures. So, and that's also where we can start to span this digital divide between India, Pakistan, Singapore, San Francisco. We know that we have the climate going on, the issues around that. We shouldn't travel all the time, so we need to learn how to navigate that distances, and that requires a bit of courage and skills to do that. Like Rehan says here, you need to make, what are the competence we need? Find information, connect with people, speak with people, make videos. That's critical skills for the future, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or teacher or whatever. So more focus on I would say there.
I would say, Bertola, I learned this word from you this week, which is a systems entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So people who want to understand what Bertola does, because most people don't understand what Bertola does, is called a systems entrepreneur. And I love what you said about, he has a dream, but we don't know the action plan yet, but we do have a dream.
It starts with a dream, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's also that the Stockholm Resilience Center, for example, you can read a lot of the methodologies and theories around system entrepreneurship, but system entrepreneurship is sort of the connectors. And they are not necessarily the same as the social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are often focused on a specific problem. The water issue or the begging situation or the energy issues for this and that. But system entrepreneurs connecting the political actors, the entrepreneurs, the innovation system, the new actors that maybe not are traditional, knows about this parallel society that I talk about, and that's a specific role to do this bridging, and it requires a lot of competence because there are different logics in a state organization, so you need to be very good in translating and finding these languages in different otherwise the others will
it's not just
understand
connecting the people, it's connecting languages, connecting cultures, connecting a lot of things to connect, and also different mindsets, worldviews. It's not a culture, it's actually a worldview you're connecting them.
And that's when often when cooperation, there are so many events here speaking about cooperation, but often you're expert in one field and you know a little bit about the second field. But the third or the fourth field, then gets difficult because there are different logics and languages, and then you said they don't understand me, and it breaks down the collaboration. So we need to be better to shift and going into these other spheres.
And that's where co-creation
Yeah.
is super important.
Yeah. We have brought you brought more songs here. Another one is the AC/DC song. Anyone who can tell us about that?
Yeah,
Attila?
it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, and that's exactly. It takes many years to open this new space. So I think it's you need to be persistent, and like I said, you make videos step by step and bridge and make awareness, and it takes years.
Welcome back after a sudden interruption, one could say. We were caught by the rain, or disrupted by the rain. So we now we are moved inside, and we want to continue the dialogue we had with some of our guests. And we were actually having a visit from future Navigators. And some of you we welcome back. It's Bertola Bergstrand and it's Mikael Siljan. But we lost Rihan on our way. We were one more here, but we also have Malin. Malin, you actually you got a nap in between.
It's really nice.
Yeah. We were really surprised by the rain. When the rain came, we had to very quick get everything out of the rain, and that was the bad part of it. The good one was that, at least I felt really alive. I don't know how you experienced the rain. What do you say, Bertola? What happened when the rain came?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We went inside, we have done a lot of things the last hours. We went to the tech arena, looked at the startup businesses here. I think for a lot of people coming from other places outside Sweden, the political week, what is the political week? So we also wanted to show that there are like the businesses and civil organizations, NGOs here as well. So it was a fantastic place. And then we went to the West Swedish arena, so like West Sweden, what they are doing. And then we slowly moved up here, so it took a few minutes, but it was great.
We had a lot of things to do when the rain came, Malin. What are your feelings and thoughts after the interruption?
Well, thank goodness we had a space to move all of our equipment into. Great teamwork, and I'm very happy that you were able to meet up with us a few hours later to continue our conversation.
Yeah, great.
And Mikael, you joined Bertola afterwards, so you came back actually when we were wrapping everything up. You came back, and so what are your thoughts now? What we're going to summarize where we were in the dialogue. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure, for sure. We talked a lot about how you build social capital and social networks and connections all over the world, and Rian told his examples, and I told my example of my journey of being a regular employee with no friends and no network or no nothing, and going to a global citizen and capital future and building my network. And Bertola, he talked about the value of actually connecting social networks all over the world, different clusters and communities, and connecting the super connectors that are the one connected in each network. So.
Super connectors was something that I actually wrote down in my book here, and I would say super connectors is something very, very interesting. We talked about it was a competence of its own, and Bertola, you talked also about it. It took some time before you actually got to the point where you were able to work as a super connector.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a constant development. You learn things all the time. It's not only to connect, because I meet a lot of super connectors, and many of them are connecting within their own field, within their own area. But we spoke about system entrepreneurship or system innovation, and that's a bit different because you connect different types of actors. So you connect state, public organizations, civil society, academy, business, people. So that requires a bit of other connection than only super connect people. You can build big network within your so it's a bit wider concept of doing this, and that takes time because you constantly learn the other logics, the other languages. example, just to give one example there, in public sector, state, regions, they often speak about mandates. I don't have a mandate to do that or this. An entrepreneur, they just do it because they have the mandate in their soul. So it's a bit of different operation logic, and the better you are to understand the backgrounds, the better you can get things happen. So yeah.
When you work as a future navigator, what I'm thinking of is, what are the principles of navigating in this complex world? Where have you found something that is common or often used within those hubs or?
Yeah, one few like say values or norms that I think is good to have with you is that if you have an open mindset, open in terms of being like, if ideas come, let it go pass by to another person. Don't stop it. So have a sort of open mindset. The other is that things are happening very randomly. You can't control things. So it's also to catch things in the moment, and that requires another type of planning process. And the other is that you are supportive. How can I support you? I rather use supportive than help, because help is a helplessness. So it's more, how can I invest in you? So open, random, supportive is sort of three concepts that we try to implement. And I think it fits very well this new economy, instead of like the old mindset, which is more closed, selective and controlling. You don't let the information go. Everything should be private, selective. Who do you take? Why? That can be applied, for example, why is it women networks, men networks, people tend to be like-minded. They are just and you don't want the information to leak out. So this open, random, supportive instead of closed, selective and controlling.
When I hear you say this open mindset, do you feel, or do you think, or do you see the ability also of being open towards yourself?
That's a much harder thing. And that's Michael's expertise. So I started with the outer networks. I think most people start outside, but so you need both the outer journey and the inner journey. And I think the inner journey comes in next step when you try to be true to yourself. So if we come to next thing about networks and communities is trust. So how do you build trust, which is essence of building this. And that requires that you trust in your own capacity, your own way of doing things. That's the way to start to build trust with other people. So you need both to develop your own trust and the inner journey and this outer.
So your experiences when you travel around the world, Michael, and how is trust built in different cultures and different contexts, or different worldviews, or whatever we call it?
Different worldviews, yeah. Trust can be built on multiple levels. Of course, we have like the mere activity of doing things together with people open up, like see that if you do something together, then you have built the first level of trust, and then you have like what Bertola called bonding, when you really connect deeply to someone. You hear their life story, or you experience what they experience and such. And when you come in with an open mindset, you can immediately start sharing your life story. That especially for people like us, the Swede, that you never even talk about your life story with people you have known for 10 years. But when you come in with an open mindset, you can you feel that trust immediately. So I can start sharing my personal problems or struggles, or if I have financial problem, relationship problem, no problem sharing this with a stranger if there is an openness from both people, and then you immediately start building trust with sharing your challenges. So that's
interesting. And I have been living my whole life in Sweden, but I know you, Malin. You've traveled the world. You've lived in different countries. What would you say is like? Is there also something you have been thinking of when you have been living abroad? How they build trust?
I don't think I spent too much time thinking about it when I actually lived abroad, but
it's definitely interesting. I would say
it's very interesting.
and you connect in different ways in different places, but also in different ways with different people. But there's always this fundamental of sharing openly. So this open-mindedness that you're talking about, I think we could all relate to and understand from our own frame of reference. Sharing your story and hearing other people's stories will always help you connect. And once you start connecting, then you also build a trust.
I heard something a couple of years ago from two persons who were working with culture in different companies around the world, global companies. They told me something. I would see if you share their experience, because I can't relate fully to it. And that was that the cultural difference between countries and the cultural difference between people inside a company. They told me that people inside the company versus outside the company, that was a bigger cultural difference than between countries. Is that something you have been thinking of, as I maybe you have reflected, or when I pose it now as some kind of a question, is it something you can relate to?
Yeah, I can definitely. I mean, it's sometimes I can feel that I have people in other countries that I have never met. You can build trust easier with them because you have a sort of, you're on the same wavelength, you think in the same way. So I think that could very well be the case. Not necessarily, but I can see it. And, yeah.
So
I think also like many people today define their whole life through their professional work title, and that's a part of identity. And when that is your strongest identity, you have many identities inside yourself, but when your work title is your strongest identity, that is the one that is stronger, like even stronger than your nationality, and that probably
would be the case then.
Will be the case then, that you define yourself as the company you work for and the title you have there more than your nationality.
And that's interesting, yeah.
I also think that maybe this goes without saying, but when I worked with inner city youth in the U.S., the kids that I met, they trusted me as a professional, but they would not trust me enough to share their stories. So if they needed help with something that had to do with school or their environment, absolutely, they would trust me immediately. I guess they trusted in my capabilities, but they didn't trust me as a person because they didn't understand me, and I think I was too different, or we were too different.
Yeah, and trust
age-wise, and
trust is it's a extremely big concept
it
with
is.
Every component and different types of trust. So I totally agree.
But how can we then boost the trust? Because the trust will be probably needed in many ways in future navigation, I guess, and also in building the future we want to see. Trust yourself, trust your peers, trust to other people in other countries, trust to even other countries themselves. It's kind of a interesting thing that when we talk about people, we often tend to see them as a citizen of something, and then they have the government, and that's also people. So we have to have trust in many levels. How can we boost or how can we build trust? What do you say?
I think one of the key elements generally around trust is it's about expectations. So if you build in a relationship, whatever it is, if you build a expectation there and you fulfill it, you build trust, regardless if it's professional or if it's in society or something. So start to build activities, and the perfectest activities when you go through a challenge together or something, because then you really are vulnerable and you need to share with others about the situation and build it together, and then you come out much stronger. So you build this mutual things and build a mutual value. So I say build micro trust. Don't build too big expectation, and step by step. If it's a team, if it's in a group, or if it's society, build this, and don't like a person. Don't promise too much. Promise what you can. I think that goes for most type of trust.
I have an idea about trust that I've been testing in small groups so far. Some of them didn't at all like it, the idea. Some of them actually tested it, and we came quite a distance in this idea. The idea is that at some level, trust is built. What is the key to the trust? And for me, it's like the decision of having trust. And very often we rely on like a history together to be able to take that decision. But the interesting thing then is that in the end of that journey together, trust isn't needed, because then we have knowledge of each other. Trust is actually needed in beginning when there is a lack of knowledge. And what if then we would take the decision of trust together? I mean, we could say here in this room, let's take the decision of having trust here. And if everyone agree, we will probably meet the expectations of it, as you said, Batula. So I don't know what you think about that idea.
You can kickstart trust in that way, but often trust and social capital, which is another sort of name of it, is that you see it most clearly when things break down. So when it goes down in society or the business is running well, you will see if you take this decision and times get hard, probably or likely a few people will disappear. And that's at least what I have seen multiple times. That it takes time to build this resilience in communities and relations. So you can kickstart it and get it going, but you need to build mechanisms where you do things together and build a social glue.
And that's, I think, a very, very important word, resilience, because that takes time. And we will need many of these micro experiences that you were mentioning earlier. Even if we make the decision from the get-go, saying we're going to trust each other. Building that resilience, it's going to take time.
And I want to add one component there, that it's often said that it takes a long time to build trust and very quickly to break down. I think it's necessarily not true, because
I agree.
if you look at relations that build families, for example, built over a long time, even rooted in tradition, that can take much more. It's higher resilience in that type of so you have to decide a bit what type of trust and
also what type of trust is maybe needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we really break down trust? So that I'm sure we can, but I think it's very hard to break down trust to these mini parts or micro parts.
No, it's a concept more like.
Exactly.
It's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing. You brought some songs here. One of them was in the part 1, and now we have 2. We can choose from. Which one is the first we want to listen to here? You go, Batula.
I had It's a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll, and that was very much what we spoke about. It takes time to build this, and it relates to my own story of doing this with communities and networks and bridging different actors and digital spaces together. It's so hard to explain. I go here in Almedalen and I hear the speaker work quadruple helix models and how a public sector can work with academy and business, but I would say the digital spaces, which we haven't really met that level, what I can hear in Almedalen. It's one thing with the digital infrastructure. Next, how do you start to build relations there and between and to the like physical spaces? So that takes a long time to build this understanding and how to use it for good.
Welcome back to Radio Intentional Decisions. We are coming to you from Visby, Gotland, in Sweden, and we are having a conversation with Ola Bergstrand and Mikael Siljan. I'm Malin, and I'm here with Stellan. We're having a conversation about building trust and what key principles, ingredients do we need to build resilient relationships. In person, but also digitally, and we'd like to dig a bit deeper and hear more about from Batula and Michael about these digital platforms and clusters that now exist out there, and how do we build meaningful relationships using them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what I have seen over the years is that in many groups, or with a lot of people, they see like the social media or these digital groups or Facebook groups or Instagram or whatever. It's not real. The real meetings and the real relation is when you meet person face to face. So, but in my opinion, at least, it's definitely real. It has real consequences in the digital spaces as well, but it's a bit other dynamics. So I think that to realize that it's something there that is hopefully real, kind of real consequences, and also that it's when you have never met person before, if you start to do something that you share a common interest around, whatever it is, for soccer, in football, or starting a business or something, start around the passion you have. If you build a digital group and do things, start to collaborate. How can we do this, for example, in solving a poverty issue, which I meet a lot of people who want to do for Nepal, or how to build a school or something. You can start to do something for another person together. Then you start to build trust with the people. And like in other circumstances, you shouldn't divide it so much from your face-to-face world. It works the same. It's the same logic in that. To do something meaningful and try to solve it together.
I think it's super interesting. I don't know if it was Stella and I or someone else from our project group, but we were just the other day we were talking about how youth today build relationships online through games.
Yeah, I guess it was you and me actually.
It might have been.
Could it been I told you about my son and his friend?
Yeah.
I can share that story.
Please do, because
it's very
it
interesting.
connects very clearly to what you're talking about.
We have a family we know. They came over to us, and we were out in the yard, and we were sitting down and having some Swedish fika. And the kids, there is one for each. There is a girl for Tiva, my daughter, is a guy for Alvin, my son, and so on. And we were sitting there, and so all of a sudden, the son in the other family, he was like leaving, and his father said, "Hey, where are you going?" Yeah, I'm going home. Why? I'm going to play with Alvin.
And their neighbors.
And the neighbors. And we were, well, okay, so where is he then? So he was up at his room, and this game they were playing, they needed a computer each. And what I realized there was that they are having a relationship on this platform, which is they need the platform to continue it with. So and they probably they meet there much more often than I realized. And that was very interesting, and that's definitely real for them.
And very often, as adults, I'd say, question: are these real relationships, and should they really be spending so much time online instead of meeting in person?
What do you think about that one? Is that something? I mean, a lot of grown-ups say that. Do we share that thought from the grown-up world?
No, most grown-ups don't. I play online games, and I have made contacts in Greece, in Malta, in South Africa, and there's one guy in France, two in Germany, one on Iceland that I play sometimes, maybe once a month or twice a month, or something like that. And like there's not even a reflection that they're from another part, and we usually talk English in the chat and online, and this is real. I have no face on them, but it's definitely real. But there's not that deep level of trust there, especially depending on type of game. If you play a very complex game where you like a role-playing game where you have to depend on each other for hours at the end, then you build deeper trust. But if you just play a lighter game, there's not that level of trust, but still there's the sense that we are all global citizens and we are in this together, and our passion unites us more, and we feel more connected to each other for passion than other people who share another passion.
So maybe those platforms are peace platforms then.
Definitely peace platform.
And that's extremely interesting.
It is.
And but you was
I just want to add there that trust is, of course, one component. You also have the norms and values, and norms is sort of the hidden rules of how you should behave. And if, for example, trust can be clearly seen if you will you trust to give your children to another person, the one you are gaming with, for example? No, that's too dear to me. I don't trust you that much. But for example, just to test on social media, if you have an open profile and someone would post something on your profile which is negative, and then hopefully you have an army of supporters who will clean up, who are watching over you. They are supporting you. That's sort of building the trust with the community. So these hidden norms are also protecting trust. So it's a lot of these structures that exists.
And maybe it's easier to stand up for someone when you can actually be part of it immediately, instead of hearing about it a week after or something, which was maybe the case when we grew up. That when we heard that people were threatened or whatever they were, it was often many days after, maybe a week after, and in this case it can be directly.
The reputation and the word of mouth. It's like a bit of looking after the community and how you behave.
You were talking very shortly about it, but maybe you can deepen it down. You're working with like some kind of a navigation model. That have different parts.
Yes, for sure. During the last year, me and Bertola and Carl McFall, the third part of the Future Navigators, we formed a team and said, let's bring our competences together and create a model around what is it actually we do and what is it that need to be done in the world. For the challenges are free. We have all the SDGs, like the global environmental social challenges. And there's also we see every city everywhere. There are companies in every city. They need more talent, they need top talent, and they need talent now and faster. So there's like a talent challenge in every city. And there's also a challenge of a world that moves faster every day. It becomes more complex, more global. Johan Rockström calls it the great acceleration, together with many other scientists. Like every curve is going up. We are in the beginning of an acceleration. Everything moves faster. Everything in the world becomes more complex. And in all these three challenges, we are walking blind. Otto Chalmers calls it, we're sleepwalking into the future. We have no idea how to solve many of them, and no one is spending enough time to actually change the mindset to understand that. But most of us is stuck in an old 19th century, 20th century industrial mindset. And in this, we identified that there need to be a new competence, new roles that navigates this complex challenge society with many challenges. It's called some call it the network society because of internet, and some call it a new sustainable regenerative society. But there are many aspects of this and we all have to put these puzzle pieces together. And there's a role what we call a navigator, or a weaver, or a sense maker, or a wisdom seeker. And in that we came up with a fairly holistic model. What is the activities these people have to do? And we call it both four things: journification, eventification, unification, and amplification. What you can do in a network society. And eventification is how do you facilitate and make events better. Almedalen is an event. A local meetup between 3 people in a pub is an event. So it's the scale from 3 people to 40, 100. A music festival with 100,000 people is also event, like we're skilled now, 120,000 people or something like that. That's also an event. And how do you manage and facilitate these events on a city level? Because most of the events are physical and local. There are of course online events as well, and you have to have strategies around making better an event. And how do you build trust and social capital through events.
Yeah, and to just understand why events is of importance. Am I right if I say that is where people meet? Is that, or have you found other interesting things when people meet during an event?
An event is like a way to meet, and we have all types of like meet battles, but the whole society is built on events. If you have the philosophical definition of an event, like going to work in a work day, that's an event in itself. But
something takes place.
But some events are more special and one time, and one events are recurring daily. And the weekend is an event for many people. How do you facilitate the weekend event for everyone and such? But there's a lot of thoughts going into this, a lot of philosophical, but a lot of practical thoughts. But we want at least have an awareness and a strategy around every type of event that you facilitate in a city, in a company, in a region. And then we have what we call...
So hosting is important.
Hosting, facilitation. We have all been to boring events. And we have all been to magical events. And why aren't all event magical?
You should have seen Malin when you said magical event, and you were... you went from... to very happy. Well, just to find your thoughts there. Please share them. What were you thinking about when?
Well, first he said boring. I don't know what I think he said boring, and I wanted to laugh or at least nod in agreement, but radio listeners can't see me nodding. And my quick reflection was, oh, thank God that I no longer host meetings that are boring. Or I hope that I never did actually, but. And then I thought, thank God that I've surrounded myself with people that have been able to inspire me, and that I'm in this learning curve for how to host meetings that actually matter, and that people can connect to, and where everyone can contribute. So
but when it's said magical, you actually.
But that's magic.
Yeah, that's magical.
Those meetings are magic.
I think
that's when magic is created.
Adding there to, in this field of. Michael explained there's the big challenges, a lot of stuff is happening, very complex. So we also need new accounting system. So in that sense we call it, we name it a charter that accounts for what Leif Edvinsson, professor in intellectual capital, speak about, the social capital, the human capital, the structural capital, which belong to intangible assets, what you can't see. So we have built up an accounting system very much, which we use today based on 600-year-old accounting practice, where it's tangible assets, infrastructure, roads, houses, machines.
The outer world assets and the inner world assets are not seen then.
So it's super important that you also can connect the dots and see and use sort of networked accounting for what's valuable in society around this. And,
that was the eventification, Michael. And then you had the
amplification.
Amplification.
Yeah, and that's a part of, like, we human are storytellers. Like, that's the basic pitch for that. And in that, we have to tell stories about everything we do. And thanks for internet now, we can see like there's a lot of bad things happening in the world that gets very amplified with internet. Stories go haywire, go viral. There's also a lot of good stories. Greta Thunberg's story is, of course, an effect of a quick amplification. This would be impossible to create a global movement like this 40 years ago, but now thanks to internet, in less than a year, they created a global movement around Greta Thunberg, Fridays for Future and everything, and that's an amplification strategy. And of course, we have everything from movies, TV series. We all binge watch Netflix. There's also a type of amplification where the message in a TV series goes straight into our brain, and we have no idea what we actually learn when we binge watch Netflix for 5 hours in an evening or something like that.
So amplification, for me, it sounds like a bit where we... where the focus is actually.
So
the focus means actually I amplify what I focus on.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a cognition, it's storytelling, and it's communication in one thing. So that's also you have to have strategies and awareness around If you run a company, a community, or a city or something, what gets amplified, who talks about what and why. Like we talk here on the radio, we sit there and we amplify things just by talking through it.
And that was the second one, and the third one.
We had unification. That's more like a lot of the Bertola we talked about already. Social. How do you build the network? Social capital. How do you bridge different groups all over? Bonding, bridging, linking is the strategy around that. So there is a lot of talk about that, but that you also have to handle. And then we have what we call journification. That is both what we talked about, the inner and the outer journey, and also like lifelong learning, the talent challenge. How do we train people to become more talented, and instead of stealing talent from each other, how do we start sharing talent and competence and skills? And thanks to digital media and internet and such, we can scale sharing talent and competence without actually cutting a talented person into small pieces and spreading them around.
I have a very simple question then. Actually, have you seen digital systems where this works? Those or at least.
I mean, when I look at like the backside of Facebook, they are thinking in this way more or less, because the tools, the parts of Messenger and Facebook and Instagram can be seen in the system. But if you don't know about them, you don't know how to use it. So because amplification, it's one thing to have, to get let's take Greta Thunberg, for example. If it's the wrong context, like wildfires in California, if it's raining outside, you will not get it out. So you need to understand is it ready to move an ID? How do you move an ID? Now it's an awareness around the world. Greta's case or other cases, if this was 5 years ago, it would probably not happen. So it's also an understanding of the structures and the context when messages goes out, and the network structures. Where do you trigger networks?
Yeah, and Rehan told us of some of the examples here in the part one of this dialogue, and I really liked his idea of sharing his Facebook friends. That was funny. So if you now listen on part 2, please listen on part 1 where Rehan shared this story. The last song you brought, who is going to present that one?
Yeah, that's going to be me, and that's a new song from Scooter, one of my favorite band, and I started explaining what started raining. There's two aspects to this. Scooter is a techno band from Germany that has a very silly profile, and that's intentional, because through silliness and playfulness, and you develop curiosity and creativity, and it's very hard to stay mad at someone or go to war with someone when you have a silly mindset. So like when I used to say there's nothing more serious than silliness, and I think Jan Cleese has one of the best lectures. You can search for him online. He has very good lectures around silliness and Monty Python and everything, how that actually unites. And also the second part, this is a rave song, so it's good to dancing, and dancing is one of the most fundamental human activities that we have inside us. We are born with the ability to dance. We can go up to, you can travel around the world and start dancing with people without speaking the language. So that's a form of communication and bonding we can do. So silliness and dancing are two human activities we must get much better about, and develop awareness around that. I am a raver dancer. You can see Bertola have live streamed me dancing from yesterday, and I do it both in a silly way and such. And for me, that's also when you can go into different kinds of flow states, and we don't have time to talk about that. But there's a lot of research about flow and such, and one of the deepest flow states you can go into is when you dance.
And the rhythm.
I can dance for hours without feeling tired. But if I go to the gym, I feel tired after 15 minutes doing the same physical activity.
Exercise, Hjärtligt välkomna tillbaka, and most welcome back. We have both Swedish and international guests, so we are right here sitting down and having a fantastic dialogue together with the future navigators, and we're broadcasting from live from Almedalen, an event in in Visby, Sweden, which is actually attracting a lot of people, which all want to impact the world in some way. And two of them are our guests here today, the Future Navigators Bertil Bergstrand and Mika Siljan. So we have been talking in two parts. First part was outdoors, so maybe that's the outer journey. And now we have had our inner journey. Yeah, we have had our inner journey. There was something in between that made us go from the outside in. So now I would like us to summarize in some way, to be able to then go from inside out and leave this dialogue and not leave it, more like amplificate it. So how can we take this further? What is the next step we want to do to amplify this dialogue we have had? What do you say? Who wants to go first? Anyone?
Sure, I can go first. For me, it's about curiosity. This is an innate skills that many mammals have, and it's the skill that makes mammals able to be born without the skills they need throughout life. So some mammals are born with almost all skills, but some mammals, like humans, were born with almost no skills. And curiosity is the trait that enable us to actually learn after being born the skills we need to survive and thrive and reproduce as a species.
Maybe curiosity is a skill then. Couldn't curiosity be a skill?
Yeah, it is skill in itself, but it's also a trait. And in many mammals, as you get older, it turns off because you have learned everything you need to learn. But most humans can keep this trait and skill on throughout their lives. We stay in a nymphia state where we actually is a larva or a child our whole life. But not all humans, and this is a lot of, like Ken Robinson says, that school kills curiosity and creativity. That's not entirely true, because it's built into mammals to actually tone down curiosity and creativity throughout your life if you not cultivate and train on this skill. So it's a skill that you can keep on training and become even better at. So curiosity on ourselves, curiosity on society, curiosity on an unknown future, because we don't know what the future is going to be like. The only thing we know about the future is not going to be like today. So we have to have that curiosity and explorative mindset.
And then I would say this skill will be of curiosity will be crucial for the future and for being able to create the future. As we mentioned earlier, the accelerating change curve. If we don't have curiosity, then the change will be something that is hard, that is struggling, and something that is actually meeting us, and we have to face it. But we could also change perspective and maybe perception and see this change curve as a possibility curve, and then we have the most in the greatest change lays also the greatest possibilities. Then, so the possibilities. What would you take from Almedalen to those other hubs? What is the key learning so far from Almedalen, you would say?
No, I think what I do is to try to show things, what happens when I go to different places, like Rehan before, if you followed him. So this is a fantastic place for the world to get inspiration. I was at World Economic Forum a few months back. It's sort of World Economic Forum, but here it's open. There it's closed. So, but then we need to open up. So I try to do it with mobile camera to a global audience all the time. So they get the sense of being here. So I'm a bit surprised that still after 50 years or whatever, that there are not more arenas to show this. You have, of course, from time we hear about some teams coming from another country to make a reportage or something, but we should have much more things to export about the Nordic model. So amplify the different what's going on here in Almedalen.
Yeah, this is like a case study of one of the best medical events, if you choose it to be, that we can develop. This is just in the beginning of what Almedalen actually can be 50, 100 years from now, when we all perfect network citizen or something like that. But actually take Almedalen, like Rehan said, this is something that we should be very proud of here in Sweden, because other countries don't have it at all. And we hear we can hear a lot of critic voices of Almedalen for various reasons. I won't go into that, but this is like a magical event on a global perspective, because nowhere else place in the world, there's almost nowhere place in the world that there is an event like this, and we should export this or
we should
teach
definitely
others.
It
Sports,
goes a bit like in a linear way. Norway does it, Denmark and Finland and the Baltic. But why don't make
international arenas,
exponential.
an exponential and digital.
Virtual Almedalen, or in Pakistan? That's what we do anyway. So I mean, we can imagine it in a new way.
And when we're sitting here, this is a nice bridge for us now to actually move into tomorrow, as one of our guests of tomorrow went into the room, and if you felt something in our conversation here, was Thomas Björkman moving into the room,
to
and
the
Thomas
space.
into the space, and Thomas will be one of the guests tomorrow. So please join us for Radio Medvetna Val also tomorrow. Some of the broadcasting will be in English, some of them will be in Swedish, and we'll see tomorrow which language we will choose when we meet with
Spanish.
Yeah, and so thanks for coming here and sharing your knowledge and sharing your passion with us, and also for actually creating the future together. And Malin, do you have something on your mind that you want to say in the end, or what do you say? What is your main takeaway from this dialogue?
Oh, goodness. The connection between your passion, or the power of connecting your passion and your inner journey with the outer, and what's good for the world and what's best for the world. And in these spaces, these digital spaces, how can we use them and see them as an awesome tool and a co-created place for working together.
Thank you very much, and thank you for listening. And afterwards, you can find this dialogue, hopefully both parts into one, and definitely into the podcast Radio Medvetna Val. Thanks, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.